Hello, this is Phoebe. If you're anything like me and uncoordinated in the kitchen, then this is the video for you. Today I'm going to teach you how to make macarons. Let's go. Let's talk equipment. You're going to need a KitchenAid mixer, a food processor, 2 baking pans, measuring cups or bowls, measuring spoons, parchment paper, a spoonula, a mesh strainer, a large bowl, sandwich-sized Ziploc bags, a cup, and of course, your oven. And that's all for equipment. Let's talk ingredients. You're going to need half a cup of almond flour, 2/3 cup of powdered sugar, 2 teaspoons of tea leaves or your tea powder of choice, a few drops of food coloring, half a cup of granulated sugar. Don't be deceived, these are not mixed nuts, and 2 eggs. And that's it. Crack 2 eggs, separating the egg white from the egg yolk, and you can cover and refrigerate the egg yolk to use in other recipes, but the egg white is what is required for the macaron shells. So separate the egg yolks and whites and leave the egg whites out in room temperature for about 20 minutes or so as you prepare the other items. It's important to use room temperature eggs because they whip up a lot better and faster than cold refrigerated eggs. And don't be like me, be careful with the egg yolk, that they don't break or mix, otherwise you're gonna have to waste a lot more eggs than you need. Measure and pour half a cup of almond flour into your mesh strainer and large bowl. Measure and pour 2/3 cup of powdered sugar into that same strainer and bowl. Now I use a spoonula or a silicone spatula to sift the almond flour and powdered sugar through the strainer. This step is critical so that your macaron shells are light and smooth in texture rather than gritty or clumpy. You want a very smooth and fine cookie. Now after some sifting, you'll see I'm left with these larger bits of almond flour and powdered sugar, which will be discarded. Now, this particular macaron recipe will yield tea-flavored macaron shells. Measure 2 teaspoons of tea leaves into a food processor. Here I'm using Assam masala chai tea. You have the liberty to really play around with the different flavors. I find that my favorites are honey lavender, matcha, and Thai tea. Go ahead and close your food processor and blend on high and shake occasionally until the tea leaves are extremely fine. Now, this step can be skipped if you're using matcha powder. In that case, you would just measure 2 teaspoons and sift through the mesh strainer. Now that I'm done blending my masala chai tea, I'm going to go ahead and put them through the same mesh strainer, making sure I get all the little bits of tea. And I'm going to sift through the tea as I did with the almond flour and the powdered sugar. Again, you will be left with these larger pieces of tea leaves, which can be discarded. Back to the egg whites. Using your mixer, beat the egg whites on medium speed until soft peaks form. First, the egg whites will start getting foamy and opaque, but still liquidy. Continue to beat until the egg whites are white and fluffy. Basically, when egg whites are whipped, air gets trapped and causes it to foam and expand. Then when baking, that air results in rising. Soft peaks means that it's just starting to hold their shape. Next, add half the granulated sugar, increase the speed of the mixer, and beat until stiff peaks form. Stiff peaks stand straight up when the beater is lifted. Add the remaining half of the granulated sugar and beat until the egg white is shiny and fluffy. Careful though not to overbeat, because this will result in macaron shells that are wrinkly or blotchy. Next, and this step is optional, but really steps up your macaron game in my opinion. Add 1 to 2 tiny drops of food coloring. You want enough color to tint your almond flour and tea leaves, but not alter the consistency of your mixture. Since you don't want to overbeat your mixture, beat until the color is fairly thorough, and then turn off your KitchenAid mixer. Combine the dry ingredients into the meringue. This will include your almond flour, powdered sugar, and tea. Next, folding. Quite literally scoop from underneath and fold over the top of your batter. Keep repeating this folding process until the ingredients just mix. Overfolding will result in macarons that are flat with no feet, and undermixing will result in macarons that are too hollow. The right consistency should flow slowly like molten lava. Make sure to fold until the ingredients just mix. Next, insert a sandwich-sized Ziploc bag into a cup. Of course, you can use a piping bag and be professional, but most of us don't want to invest in super specialized equipment as a newbie. Then transfer your mixture into the Ziploc bag, getting as much as you can. After transferring the mixture into the Ziploc bag, cut a tiny sliver off the edge. It's going to be a DIY piping bag. Next, stick the parchment paper to the baking pan by using a little bit of macaron mix. That will make the parchment paper stick to the pans without fraying the edges. To pipe your macarons, pipe a 1.5 inch dollop onto the parchment paper, leaving enough room for each shell to expand ever so slightly. Now, I'm doing it freehand. Of course, you can purchase baking sheet mats with macaron templates to get the spacing and sizing perfect. But I'm too cheap for that, so I am eyeballing it. I pipe a circle, swirling from the outside in, ending in the center. Go ahead and preheat your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Then gently drop your tray to your work surface, quite deliberately 3 to 5 times. I like to put silicone mats underneath so I'm not slamming onto the kitchen island. The purpose is to remove any air bubbles and flatten the tip so your macaron shells are smooth and even. Let the macaron shells rest on the counter for 10 to 15 minutes. You want them to no longer be wet to the touch, and a shiny layer forms in the top before sticking them in the oven. Bake for 15 minutes. The middle rack works best for me. When baking, do not open the oven until the 15 minutes are up. Macarons are very finicky, and doing so will affect the temperature and cause your macarons to deflate or crack. After baking, remove from oven and let cool for 10 to 15 minutes. Transfer the macaron shells to a cooler flat surface and match the macaron shells 2 by 2 based on the size of the shell. Of course, you want an evenly sized macaron. Using your filling of choice, here I'm using a super quick and easy cream cheese based filling that I've included in the caption below. Place a tiny dollop onto half of the macaron shell. I'm pretty conservative with this because I don't like the filling to ooze out or be overly sweet. Gently press the macaron shells together so it just sticks. After assembling the macarons, I know it's very tempting to want to eat them right away, but refrigerate for a couple hours or even overnight, and this will enhance the texture so it has a bite. And there you have it, easy peasy macarons for the amateur chef. This recipe yields about 2 dozen. Thanks for watching my video. Subscribe to follow along.